Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Cameron Art, owner of PickPocket Games. Cameron's latest title by the designer of Tiny Towns called Lodge is currently on Kickstarter. Cameron, welcome to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me, man. I'm so happy to be here.
It is awesome to have you. Getting a chance to meet you. I haven't met you yet, so this is us kind of coming in cold and getting to meet each other live on air. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I know you've been in this industry now for a while. You've done a few campaigns and you've had some pretty good success. So we're going to get into that soon. How did this all start? When did you start gaming? When did you get into the industry? Tell me about it.
Yeah. So I think my journey into playing games is pretty similar to most people. Like early high school, even in middle school, I played a lot of like Catan and things like that. Very, very old school strategy stuff. High school, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, introduced me to some more deep strategy games. Some of her family, her brother-in-law, played some more hardcore just all kinds of random stuff.
Awesome.
It was a pretty rapid descent into madness of me just wanting to try harder and harder and more complicated things.
Yeah.
And just getting my hands on as mmany games as I possibly could. I went through the typical Kickstarter phase of backing way too many projects and just like playing everything I could possibly get my hands on.
You have your wall of your shelves, or a large wall of shelves.
They're over here. I still have not trimmed it down as much as I would like just calyx upon calyx bursting at the seams of games stuffed in there however they could fit. So that was like high school into college, just playing as many games as I possibly could. College, I started tinkering with design. I liked designing expansions to games I already owned. I had been working on a word game for a little while that I just thought was a fun time. I love, like, if you ask me what my favorite game is, I'm going to lean into hard strategy. But I love a good like party word game. I'm a sucker for a good word game. So I had been working on a word game for a little bit, and then was like, let me just throw this up on Kickstarter. How hard can it be, right? Like everybody's doing this nowadays. Turns out very hard.
Yeah.
It did okay. This was like peak pandemic time also. So like like pandemic started basically right after this Kickstarter ended, which means my container prices like tripled. It was just a mess. I learned the hard way how complicated fulfillment can be.
Yep.
Even fulfillment to just the US. I wasn't even trying to do international anything at the time. And just got my world rocked of just like how hard and complicated running a business is and making a product and fulfilling a product is. So from there, I then pivoted and said, okay, I know I want to do this. I know I want to get more involved here, but I need to go learn the ropes a bit more somewhere. I need to learn from people who know what they're doing. And I had the good fortune right around that time to bump into and meet one of the owners at Keymaster Games, who just happened to be looking to expand the team and bring on somebody to help with some customer service, some dev work. And that just kind of fit like a glove for me. So I spent like 4 or 5 years working with Keymaster. Love that team. I'm still very good friends with the owners. I will still occasionally do some solo design work for them every now and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took that time to really just try and educate myself as much as possible on the ins and outs of how does a company who really knows what they're doing at this point deliver on both a spectacular product, but also just fulfillment and customer service and managing day-to-day operations and all these different things that it takes to run a company of that size and at that level.
It's cool that you did that, right? So like, and this is a theme that we have on this podcast for those that have heard other episodes, is the importance of doing your research, right? And there's a couple things I want to kind of poke in there. One is that understanding that this is a business, right? So often people get into this industry thinking, oh, I'd love to just kind of make a game and put it out there. But really what you're talking about is I want to get into being an entrepreneur. I want to get into being a business person, right? And if that's not the goal, then you want to design and try to pitch your designs to other people to publish, But if you're going to self-publish, you're going down the rabbit hole of now starting a business. And if you're going to do that, you really need to do your research and try to understand how others have done it. And networking is so networking is so key, right? And trying to like learn from others. And I still run into this today where I'll be talking with a designer or someone who's trying to publish, and they're looking for the feedback, but they're not really looking for the feedback, if that makes sense. And you got to really look for the feedback, right? You got to sit there and kind of step back and say, I know nothing, and there's all these other people know way more than I have because they've done it. And is there anything that I can learn from them that'll prevent me from making the same mistake that maybe they made? Can I learn from their mistakes, right? So you don't repeat it.
I mean, I was there, right? Like it took me having my world get rocked by trying to run a Kickstarter campaign to fulfill a product to realize, oh man, like I do not know what I'm doing here at all. Like I have no
joke.
Clue. In some ways, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
that moment happening, and happy that I had I was naive enough to think I could do it and to just throw myself into it, because you kind of just learn by messing up.
Yeah,
I mean that's one of the best ways to learn. But yeah, I think definitely realizing, there's so much here that I don't know. I really need to get a better understanding of how does this industry operate and where do I actually want my role to be within it? Do I want to be really focused on design and just making gameplay? If so, I don't think you should try and run a company. I don't think you should self-publish. Like if that's your goal, that's the primary thing you're doing, publishing is rough. My time at Keymaster, I feel like taught me, design's not really where I want to be. I do want to be on the business side of things. I want to run a product company and build out a product line. That's where I find a lot more of that creative fulfillment.
Yeah, I love that part myself. The business side, I geek out over that. And the part I find the hard part is, quite frankly, the design.
I think I'm a good developer, and I think I'm a terrible designer.
You've credited yourself kind of as a solo designer. How did you go down that path, and what made you kind of focus in on solo play?
Yeah, I really love solo modes. I think especially during the pandemic at the time, my wife and I were still in school. We had just had our first son, who was 6 months right when the pandemic started. So we were all cooped up at home. And it was just, solo gaming was a good outlet for me to have something to do, right? I think everybody's feeling really cooped up and just finding ways to escape from that.
Yeah.
So I love playing solo games. But then as we came out of the pandemic and I felt like I had less time to play solo games, I was craving, a lot of the solo modes I had played were very, very complicated, I felt like, to run and to operate, and was kind of craving stuff that was a little more accessible, easy to get to the table, a little quicker to play, a little less management. And again, this was just like the good fortune and honestly just the kindness of the people at Keymaster, who knew I was a big solo gamer, saying, hey, we'd like to kind of try adding more solo mode stuff and more dedicated solo things to our games. Do you want to take a crack at that? Like, none of us solo game at all, but we see that there's a need and there's a desire for our games to have a bit more dedicated solo play. Do you want to try?
That's awesome.
And again, like, to their credit, just like gave me full freedom to just design as I saw fit to make solo modes for their stuff.
So how many games have you done the solo design for that have made it to market?
I did. So the first one I really did was Harvest over at Keymaster. I really still love that solo mode. That's a rather ridiculous. They gave me a lot of space to run and play with that solo mode. There's like a million different challenges and different levels and scenarios and things that were just a lot of fun to design. I did that one. I did the solo for Parks Second Edition, Parks Roll and Hike. I know there's a couple more in there that I either helped with or did some co-design work with.
Those are not small games.
No. And for me, the challenge and the entertainment there, and what I felt like I really enjoyed in that process, is trying to make solo modes that didn't feel like a lot of work or a lot of upkeep to do. my solos are very different than the more traditional kind of Automa take, which I do like.
Yep.
But they're a lot less like trying to simulate an artificial opponent and a lot more just like do the things that block me or get in the way, but for the most part, just let me play my game. I don't want to have to like take a bunch of time taking an artificial opponent's turn or managing that upkeep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was.
I love that philosophy. That's my philosophy as well. So I do solo designs on my games, and either you love it or you don't. But I refuse to do automa on any of them. Although I will break
I think there are different games that that require different things. Yeah. Also, I think there are certain games that my kind of design instincts for solo mode wouldn't really apply well to, that need something more robust. Yeah. But those just haven't been games that I've worked on, so it works out.
I do have one Autonoma that will be coming out down the road on one of the games, but other than that, I like this idea of have it thematically tie in, but can you create with some of the similar mechanisms, but can you create a game that uses the same kind of the same components that doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same as if you're playing with other people? So
yeah,
yeah. So if I was doing like I have a game that's kind of puzzly, and like it's a tile placement game, and the solo version is very much about turning it literally into kind of like a puzzle to solve, which is a different play style than you would do with multiplayer, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's all right. Like that's kind of where I land, is just like let me play my puzzle and let me explore the different things in this game. I don't really need the feeling. Again, for certain games this wouldn't work. For games that are really, really heavy on player interaction, it'd be a lot harder to make a solo mode that works like that. But
yeah. Totally.
So
and then with PickPocket, so what was the first kind of spark that started PickPocket Games? Like the guy you said, okay, I'm gonna start my own publishing.
Again, I had been working at Keymaster for around 4 to 5 years, really enjoying my time there, but getting to a place where I really felt like, okay, what I've learned in watching how this company operates and being a part of it is I do really want to be on that building the business side of things. I want to be on that growing a product line and managing the operations of what it looks like to build a sustainable business around this. And that just wasn't really something that they needed, right? Like they had a team that was already doing that very, very well. And it wasn't that they wouldn't have loved to have me do that. It was just like, this company doesn't have the space for that, right?
Yeah.
We already have people doing that here. So it really was just a question of, do I feel like now's the right time? Do I feel like I've learned enough and have gotten to a place where I would feel confident in embarking on my own solo endeavor again? And I think I got to a point where I was just looking at all that I had learned and my place in the industry and feeling a lot more confident in, I know what I would build. If I would go build something myself, I know exactly what it would be. And I know the people that I would want to work with to make that happen, I think was the other big piece. So I'm actually not the only owner at PickPocket.
Okay.
I have another co-owner, Josh Willenbrink, who I previously worked with at Keymaster. So I already knew we worked really well together. He's got a lot of experience in fulfillment and logistics, which was like still my weak point.
Yep.
He works at Restoration Games now and still is in sales and does a lot of fulfillment and logistics stuff. So I think it was that. It was like I finally feel like I have a pretty firm grasp on this industry and my place in it and what I want my place to be. And I think even more critically, like, I knew if I were to go start something, I know exactly what it would be. Like, I know the vision of exactly what I want to make if I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't have that before. It was like, I don't know where I want to be. I don't know what I want my role to be. I don't know what I want to make. I just know I want to make something, right? Versus now having no, I know exactly the vision of what I want to do. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
So
clarity is a gift, right? Like if you can get to that point where you have the clarity of strategy and the clarity of your goal, that's half the battle for a lot of people. It's just trying to figure out what, where do I kind of fit in this whole thing?
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise you just, and again, because I was there, you're wandering aimless, right? It's just like, I know I want to do something here, but I don't know what. And I'm just trying to figure out what it is. I'm very grateful for my time at Keymaster and being able to have the space to learn and grow, and to also just like figure out where I want my place in all of it to be.
So was that word game the first title then you launched on
It
Pickpocket?
was, yeah. It's called Vowel. It is not still available. That was a long time ago at this point.
Yeah.
Or feels like a long time ago. I think maybe pushing on 10 years at this point now.
Wow.
When I made that game. Yeah, that, again, learned a lot. I don't know that I would try and make that game again today because it was just a bit of a mess overall and what the final thing ended up looking like.
Yeah.
But again, I do think it was really helpful as a trial by fire way to really like smack me and say, you don't know what you're doing. Go learn. Like, you need to go learn more if you're going to try and do this. So,
yeah, it's funny. I look back at some of the original titles I did. And I'm like, I would have done that totally different now. Right?
You can't help it. I mean, I still do it now. I can look back on.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look back on Lodge. Like we finished that game. It's just started printing, and I'm still like, oh, I would have done this a little bit differently, right? Like you can't help it.
How did you get together with the designer of that? So the designer did Lodge was Tiny. He did Tiny Towns as well, I believe, right?
Yes, yeah. So I love spatial puzzles. Tiny Towns is one of my favorite. Peter McPherson, he's the designer of Tiny Towns, and we worked with him on Lodge. For Pickpocket, like a pretty clear vision for us has been an accessibility kind of mindset when it comes to the teachability of our games. So we want games that are really easy to share.
Yeah.
We want games that are really easy to teach. I think both of these first two games, both Thief's Market and Lodge, excuse me, really have a nice teach in that I don't really need to teach you the game before we can start playing. I can kind of just have you take a turn to teach you the game, which is just makes the game really, really easy to get to the table, whether it's at game night with people who are really into games or it's at Thanksgiving with your family that plays games with you once a year at Thanksgiving, right? Like that was kind of our goal, is make games that can fit into both of those spaces. They're not sacrificing on complexity or depth. They're just really, really easy to teach and get to the table.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about the kinds of games that already existed, our first game that we were like, this is a prime example of that, is Thief's Market, which is a game that came out from TMG, again, like similar, I think like 10 years ago at this point. And we were like, TMG's not around anymore. I wonder if we could just get the rights to that and remake it and kind of re-dev it out to be where we want it to be. We reached out to that designer, Dave Chalker, and we were like, hey, do you have the rights to this? Would you be interested in doing a new version? And he was so excited. He was like, I loved that game, but now it's like 10 years down the line. I've got so much feedback from people who've played it, and there's so many things I would do differently. Like, absolutely, like let's rebuild this from the ground up and give it another go at this great game, which did great when it came out.
Yeah.
It's just the publisher isn't around anymore to support it. So that was the first one. And then similarly, another name that came up a lot was Tiny Towns. It was like, this is such a easy example of a game that you don't really have to teach people to get going. You kind of just can get going.
Yeah. And elegant in its design too, right?
Yeah. Very, very simple core structure. But man, oh man, I don't think anybody would argue that that game doesn't have a lot of complexity and depth to it.
Yeah.
Despite its very, very simple core structure. Like the gameplay itself is really, really basic.
Yeah.
And that game breaks your brain. Like every time I play it, I'm like, oh, I cannot, like, this is so hard. So we reached out to him and we were like, hey, we love Tiny Towns. We've loved all your other work. Fit to Print is another one of his that's great.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you're cooking up that you'd be interested in showing us? And he showed us like 3 or 4 other designs first that all just, they were different levels of just why they wouldn't have worked for us. Some of them I really, really am excited about. I know one of them he has signed, and I'm excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
And we got to the end of that like pitch meeting, and he was like, well, if you guys got time, I've got one more. I don't know if it would really be a good fit. It's been kind of sitting around for a while, and I just haven't found a home for it. And he showed us Lodge, and we played 1 or 2 rounds of it and wrapped up the call. And Josh and I, my co-owner, and I both looked at each other, and we were like, we have to sign that game. It is so good. Like immediately we knew this was the next game. We had to do it.
And he had already
Um,
themed it and everything.
it didn't have the title lodge, but it was in a
Like a
ski resort.
ski
That was
resort
like the
chalet, yeah.
theme, was building a ski resort kind of, or not necessarily ski resort. I think it was just like a winter resort kind of thing.
And how did
We
he do
really
the
loved.
tray, like in his prototypes? Because you got this tray, and I'm showing on screen for people
He did
watching.
not.
Oh no,
We were just sliding it on the table was the original thing. He
interesting.
pitched us early on, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a 3D punch board tray? And he had designed,
Yeah,
like done sketch work of like a punch board build that you would construct yourself.
yeah,
Um, and we were like, no, I don't think that would really work. I think it'd probably make the game too expensive, and kind of soft shut the idea down, even though we really loved it. And then we were like, let's do the due diligence here, though.
yeah,
Let's explore some options of what would that look like. Could we make that happen? And just didn't tell him that we were working on it. So he was pretty involved in the product and the development, and he got to see a lot of the art and give notes. But we just did not tell him at all that we were working on the tray, because we were like, it'll be cool if we can pull this off and it's a surprise, but we also don't want to get his hopes up if it doesn't work out.
yeah.
Um, and I'm glad we did it that way, because boy, oh boy, was he incredibly surprised when we showed up with these renders of these elaborate mountain sculpted trays and this cool sliding mechanic that just really gave the game a lot of presence.
Yeah, I think from a development standpoint, I would say it's important to try and force yourself to at least consider things, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
this was my biggest challenge I had getting into this industry, was getting to the point where not rejecting ideas that my gut told me were probably not the right way to go, but
sure,
like sitting on them. So writing them down and sitting on them.
yeah,
So if I had feedback, I would be like, my initial reaction would be want to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that because of the X, Y, Z. But getting to the point where we can actually resist that and just write it down,
yeah,
be like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, let me think about that. And then actually going, like you're saying, do the due diligence. Like half the time, you're going to end up doing the thing after you've done the
yeah.
due diligence and getting beyond your own kind of mental blocks, right? So,
Yeah, and I think
yeah,
there's a lot of things in the board game industry that people are just like, oh, well, this is how it's done. Like, this is just how people do it. And I have like been trying my darndest to push back on that a lot and be like, just because it's how everybody does this doesn't mean it's the way it should be done. Like, just do it, even down to like manufacturing, and just being like,
yep,
regardless of who I've manufactured stuff with in the past, every time we're making a new game, I quote with like 4 or 5 different manufacturers, and I get samples from all of them.
yep.
It's just like, don't take for granted that just because this is the way people do it means it's the right way to do it. Like, do
I just
your due
sent out a quote
diligence.
yesterday, and there was 10 manufacturers on that list.
Yeah,
Now I
do the
know
due
that I've got
diligence.
my
Right? Just,
yeah, I've got my 3 favorites, but you got to keep them honest, right? And the one thing I learned that it took a while to kind of figure this out is that each manufacturer is specializes in one thing.
mhm.
So, like for instance, Hopes specializes in printing, so they're really good at. If you have a game that's just cards, they're probably going to give you the best quality for the best price.
Yeah,
What's games? They're very good at doing little chunky bits and components and meeples. So I don't know if they make the meeples internally, but their meeple quality is like probably top of the list. Like they have
mhm.
got exceptionally good quality meeples when they're printed. And so if you're going to have a game that's got chunky bits, they're probably going to be the better cost. So it really depends on
Yeah,
how your game is kind of structured, right? So it is good to kind of still chuck it out there and see what people have to say. But I was reading something the other day, and it was the power of maybe is what the article is called, right? And it's like anytime there's something where someone says something can't be done or something has to be done a certain way, in
yeah,
your mind, answer with maybe,
yep.
maybe. But let's go do some further
Yeah.
investigations, right?
Just leave yourself open to that
Yeah,
exploration, and don't be afraid.
yeah,
I think that also just having that mindset helps you get into a place where you are then more open to proposing crazy ideas yourself,
yeah,
and being a bit ridiculous with things and saying, could we pull this off? Like the next game we're working on has this really interesting production piece that we're trying to sort out right now that we still don't know if it's even going to be possible for us to physically do. But
yeah,
we're spending all this time trying to figure out if we can, because we're just like, man, if we could pull that off though, it would be so cool. Like I don't know that I've seen a game that has this kind of setup before, and it's just like, can we do this? Is this even workable?
I love innovation. I think that's been the challenge too. Is I got a buddy who says iterate versus innovate.
Yeah.
Especially in the board game space, people, backers, and especially reviewers will reward iteration, but they really don't like innovation, right? If they can't kind of put something in a box in their mind as to like, how do I describe this?
Yeah.
That often works against you. So if you can pick that kind of one thing, but make everything else familiar, that's kind of the sweet spot. What I don't want to pass up here is Lodge itself. Like, can you explain kind of how you play this game? Kind of give the essence of this. It's super cool. I mean, it looks awesome.
So it's a spatial puzzle game from the designer of Tiny Towns. If you like Tiny Towns and you like spatial puzzle games, we hope that this is a no-brainer for you.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit, if you've played Tiny Towns, it's a bit lighter than Tiny Towns. It's a little less crunchy, but still can get into the weeds a little bit if you really want to think hard about your turns. It's very, very simple. There's a sliding tray where there's rooms on 4 different levels, and whatever level you draft a room from, it's the same level that you have to build it in your lodge. So if you draft from the 4th floor, you have to build it on the 4th floor, and that restriction makes things really, really tricky and difficult. You also have to build according to like what we would call general building rules. Like, I can't grab a 4th floor room and build it on the 4th floor if there's not stuff underneath to support it, right?
Yeah.
Gotta follow gravity. So that's like the core draft. Pretty much all of your turns are just going to be taking a room from the display and putting it in your lodge. That's the bulk of your turns.
And your lodge is like a tableau in front of you, right?
Yeah. You're gradually building out this sometimes wonky shaped looking building as you construct it in different ways. And then your goal with building those rooms are in 5 different colors with icons for colorblind friendliness. You're trying to draft these customers that want certain color rooms next to each other in order to kind of stay in your lodge. And you each have one that's your own private reserve, but then the 4 out in the display are first come, first served. So it's a little bit trying to play around what you have in your reserve and getting the rooms to place that guest, but also being careful to watch what other people are trying to grab and getting the most points for placing guests on different floors. Certain guests want to be on different floors for extra points, and you can decide whether or not you want to do that. Yeah. That's the bulk of the game. Like, you just placing rooms and placing guests and trying to get points and being careful about what other people are trying to grab. And can I get this guest before that person can?
Or before it moves too, right? Some of the rooms as they move.
So the tray itself, we mentioned it was sliding.
Yeah.
How that works is anytime like a floor is completely cleared. So if all of the rooms on floor 2 of the tray have been cleared, you'll physically lift up the top of it and all the rooms will slide down.
That's cool.
And then you'll refill. So it's this really cool mechanic. It's definitely a gimmick in terms of how we structured it, but it's a gimmick that really lends itself well to the physical mechanic itself. Like, the rooms are going to slide down anyways. That's how the gameplay works. It's a very important part of the gameplay.
Yeah.
It's kind of planning around, but I think that red room is going to drop down to the 2nd floor by the time it comes back around to me. Can I plan for that? Can I make sure I'm being aware of that? And it's just a really cool functional piece to get to lift it up and watch everything slide is really nifty.
And then you had another tray that's off to the side. What's that one for?
That's in the deluxe one. There's a secondary tray. The one last piece in this game is amenities, which are separate rooms that you can grab and build to add more complication to your spatial puzzle for more points. So it'll be these different goals, like get 3 rooms of the same color in a diagonal pattern, right? Or have 4 more guests in purple rooms. Just basically letting you choose to take on more complexity in exchange for potentially more points if you can pull it off. So that's that. In the deluxe, we have another tray that just kind of holds that display. Because deluxe, because it's nice.
Of course, because it's deluxe. And then
it's cool.
Can you talk about Leslie? Because the artwork in this game is super cool. I'm trying to think of what that's like. Describe what the style is.
It has been fun to see people try and describe.
Yeah, it's kind of quirky. Kind of got like a pop art vibe to it in terms of the color palette. But I'm digging it. I love it. And kudos to him. Yeah.
Leslie Herman, he's our artist on Lodge, was absolutely fantastic to work with. I can already say we have more projects lined up with him for the future. And is a very, very distinct and unique style. Everything, part of what makes that style as unique as it is everything he does starts pencil on paper.
Yeah.
So it's purely physical for the first bulk of him working on those pieces. Yeah, it's kind of this almost art deco, a little bit pop art, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
For this game in particular, we really leaned hard on. We were looking at like 60s and 70s European style.
Yeah.
Because again, this is set in the Swiss Alps. It's loosely set in like the 60s and 70s. So there was a lot of leaning into that. There was a lot of leaning into like comic strips at the time. Also, was another big reference point for this. We just looked at a lot of different, both U.S. and European comic strips, war posters, like propaganda posters was another big reference point for us when we were building out kind of the art direction for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic to work with. He's never worked on a game before.
Really? Wow.
We've seen his work. He works at a brewery a lot. So there's this brewery called Fat Cat that does cat themed cans, and they're all illustrated by Leslie.
Yeah.
They're very cool. You should check them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really exciting prospect to work with him. And I think he really loved getting to work in just a different medium than he'd ever worked in before. It's just very different than his typical work.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we're very excited by it. We've loved seeing the reactions, both positive and negative. I love how divisive this art has been thus far, and seeing people either love it or be turned off by it. But either way, they got something to say. Like, it stands out.
Yeah. That's good. That's what you want. You want, at least it's being discussed and talked about, which is important, right?
So we're really excited. We have, I think, work lined up for him for the rest of the year. We have multiple other projects that we are excited to have him on.
Yeah.
He's been just phenomenal to work with. So
well, with this one, you've funded, so this campaign's closed. You do have late pledges open. Yes. You're at 2,235 backers is what you finished at. Congrats on that. That's amazing. 6-figure campaign. So obviously a big hit for you guys. I'm going to put a link in the show notes so people can check it out. I encourage them to, at the very least, check out the art. The art looks awesome. And if you like Tiny Towns,
you can check it out. It's available for pre-order. It's on our site. We just started printing literally as we're recording this week.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're expecting that it'll come in. We told people October, I think, for delivery. It might even end up being sooner than that. So we're really pumped.
Oh, that's amazing. And what's coming after this? Do you have it? So you said you're in the middle of developing another game right now, or there's something that's ready coming down the pipe?
There's a lot on the docket. If you see me looking up, I have a big wall of sticky notes. My sticky notes track all our work. We have 4 major projects in the pipeline right now. The biggest one, we've been using code names for some of these. Biggest one is codename Hide, I think is what we've said is the code name for it. Okay. That'll be a Kickstarter January next year. That's our next larger project, similar in size and scope to Lodge. Really, really cool game. We haven't revealed too much about it, but it is, I think people are going to really dig it.
Yeah.
We do have a couple others. We have a smaller box game that we've called Codename Space that we'll probably be revealing pretty soon. That's going to just direct release later this year.
Yeah.
It's printing now alongside Lodge, so it'll be coming out later this year. That is a spatial puzzle, not spatial puzzle. Sorry, a drafting set collection game. Very, very quick, very, very simple. It has a really clever, unique little drafting hook that we really like. But it also is like a 30 to 40 minute game. It's really quick and punchy.
Yeah.
It's got fantastic art. And we're really excited to be in a place where we could just direct release a game and not even have to do pre-orders or Kickstarter or anything for it. So excited about that. And then we also have a game called Professor Picasso. We've been talking about that one for a while. That one's a party drawing game. Still cooking. I expect it'll release sometime next year. I don't know when. We're kind of waiting for the artist's schedule to line up on that one.
Yeah.
But we're pretty pumped for that. And then we have another secret Lodge project. We've greenlit another Lodge project. We haven't said anything about it other than it's more of something for Lodge. We are working on it with the designer, with Peter McPherson, and that'll be coming out next year.
Wow, that's a stacked
Got a
docket. My
busy
gosh.
schedule. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
Well,
working on. I think we're working on all 4 of those this year, and then we'll see where next year takes us. But
well,
we're very excited.
I want to
So
congratulate you on what you've built here so far.
thank you.
It's
Yeah,
amazing to see a publisher get to the point where you've got a steady stream of games coming out,
yeah,
and certainly games like this, which have some heavy hitters behind the scenes in terms of the design, the art, and things like that. And it's a testament to your success with obviously the backer count you have even on this campaign. So
yeah.
I can see it just continue to grow for you guys, and I want to wish you all the best in this coming
Thank
year,
you.
my friend.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No worries, buddy. You take care. Cheers.
Thanks.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.